Today I'm going to be reading the next chapter in Paper Wishes. And this chapter is called July. So I'll just go back to June just to remember how the last chapter ended. Let's see. They got a letter from Keiko, her sister, and she was really encouraging Ron, her brother, to go into the army. And Ron says there are rumors the army will welcome those of us who are living here. And Keiko says that if I join the army, I will be free to leave this place being Camp Manzanar, the prison. But what kind of freedom is that? Should I fight for the army that imprisons my family? So he says, it sounds like he really does not want to do that. And then he hands her a little letter from her sister. And it says, Keiko says to Manami, "Dear sister, I know you are a comfort to mother. Study and learn so that one day you can live with me and go to college. Keiko." Once I wanted to live with Keiko and go to college. Now I just want to go back to the island. So that's how that chapter ended. And now we're going to look at the chapter called July. For many days, Miss Rosalie, remember that's her teacher, and the other teachers have been preparing us for Independence Day celebration, so July 4th. Some students learn poems, some students learn songs. I make a banner. That makes sense, doesn't it? She's not talking, so she's doing a lot of art. The older students will recite part of the Declaration of Independence. On Independence Day, everyone gathers in the open space on the other side of the classrooms in Block 7. Ron says there are plans to build an auditorium in that open space. Mr. Warden is there. My island neighbors from Block 3 are there. People from all of the blocks are there, students, parents, and grandparents. Kind of sounds like when we have something at Thornton Creek where you can have a presentation. Lots of people get to come and see, and so that's what this is, a presentation for everybody to come and see. I think I have never seen so many people in one place before. Miss Rosalie told us that there are now almost 10,000 people living in this prison village. 10,000 people with hair and skin like mine. 10,000 people with Japanese names like mine. Students line up front, facing the parents and grandparents. I stand next to Kimi. Mr. Warden motions to one of the teachers to begin. The teacher nods and a high school student steps forward. "Salute!" he shouts above the crowd. All of the students salute. But I feel nervous when I see that some adults in the crowd do not salute. "Pledge!" the high school boy shouts. Students recite the Pledge of Allegiance. But I feel nervous when I see that many adults in the crowd do not pledge. Maybe they do not know the Pledge of Allegiance. Or maybe they do. What do you think that means? Why would they not say the Pledge of Allegiance? Why would they not, even if they did know it, why do you think the parents or grandparents might not say the pledge? Mr. Warden must not see them, though, because he doesn't leave his spot. After the pledge, he reads a speech from a paper, but the wind starts to blow and dust fills my ears, so I cannot hear his words. After the ceremony, school is dismissed for lunch, and the crowd shrinks. We go back to our own blocks, back to our own barracks. Ron walks me to lunch, the wind pushing our arms and legs towards the mess hall. On the other side of the road that separates Block 3 from Block 9, some men huddle in the shadows of one of the barracks. These men are city men, not from our island. So I'm thinking that their island then must be kind of more farm, rural. Rural means like farmland rather than city. Probably much more, Bainbridge is probably much more built up now than it was, but it's not like Seattle, right? Bainbridge is still kind of more like a suburb, and there's definitely some places where there's very little land that is being used for homes. So it's changed, but it's still not quite like living in downtown Seattle. Ron sees me staring. "Come," he says, but then he stops and looks. I see what he sees. Some of the wild boys from his class are lurking on the edges of the men in the shadows. Go to lunch, Manami, Ron says. My stomach tightens. I do not want to leave Ron alone with these men and the wild boys. Ron gently pushes my back. I'll be there in a minute, he says. I walk as slowly as I can, looking over my shoulders at the shadow group. As Ron nears them, I see a man give a paper to one of the wild boys. The paper gets crumpled and shoved into his pocket. I am too far to hear Ron's conversation with the wild boys, but I hear some words. Lunchtime, go to the mess hall. I am relieved when I see Ron walk away from that group, a few of the wild boys slinking behind him. The wind has not stopped blowing for more than a week. It is heavy and hot and dry. Island winds can be heavy too, but they are cool and wet. Island winds coat my face with tiny beads of water. This wind pelts my face with dust. It glues my eyelashes closed until Mother presses a warm, wet cloth on my eyes to clean the dust away. It powders my hair until Mother brushes the dust free with her long, strong strokes. It layers my tongue and throat, too much for Mother to clean out. Not even 2 cups of hot water from the teapot can clean that out. Just below the howl of the wind, I can hear another sound. It's not quite a whimper and not quite a growl. It is something in between. Eugen is out there in the dusty wind. I hear him, and when I walk to the water pump in the morning, I hear him when I sit in the garden. I hear him when I wait at the mess hall for Mother. I am afraid for Eugen. What if no one let him out of that crate? What if he is roaming the streets looking for me? What if he found a ferry boat to the island and is waiting at our house because Pastor Rob does not know he has returned? And the worst, what if he followed the train tracks and is lost in the dusty wind? So she's really feeling bad about Eugen, bad about what's happened to him, wondering she cares so much about him and constantly is thinking about his welfare. When Miss Rosalie hands me paper at the end of the school day, I get an idea. If the wind was strong enough to carry my letter to Ron, then maybe it is strong enough to carry one to Eugen. Then maybe it is strong enough to bring Eugen. When I get home, I draw Eugen on a piece of paper. I do not know what he looks like now, so I draw him as I last saw him, shoved into a crate. I draw his eyes and his ears and his tail, his mouth open and barking, his paws pushing against the crate. I fill the drawing with promise words. Come, Eugen, and I will give you an extra bowl of rice and chicken. Come, Eugen, and we will run until we fall down. Come, Eugen, and you can sleep in my bed. In the morning, I rise early. I water Mother's garden and check each of the plants. Since the rainstorm, they have grown tall again. Then I walk past Block 3 toward the administration buildings. I walk behind the buildings until there is nothing but dirt and sky between me and the fence that surrounds the prison village. I hold up my picture of Eugen and make a wish, raising my arm up high above my head. The wind flaps the paper, then rips it from my hand, carrying it over the fence. I watch my paper until it is too far away to see. I have added my paper promises to the air. After school, I draw another picture of Eugen. This time I draw him as he looked hidden beneath my coat. His panting tongue, his wide open eyes, crouched and quiet. I write more promises on this drawing. Come, Eugen, come. We will take long walks and wrap up in a blanket together. The next morning, when I release the drawing in the wind, it flies higher than yesterday's paper. Every day I draw Eugen. Some days it is one picture, some days it is more. Eugen running on the sand, Eugen sleeping under grandfather's chair, Eugen watching birds dip and bob, Eugen waiting by the door. Each morning I make a wish for Eugen to come, and I send new promises in the air. After 10, and then 20, and then 30 drawings, I wonder, one of my pictures should have found Eugen by now, so why hasn't he come? I draw one last picture, Eugen and grandfather sitting side by side on their rock on the beach. The ocean in front of them, the sun behind them. This will be the last one. I think this will be the one that brings Yuzhin. When I release this picture the next morning, I do not write a promise. I write a message instead. I'm sorry, Yuzhin. I'm sorry. I hold it up high. Then I jump and throw it into the wind. Wind and dust and tears fill my eyes. I scrub at them with my sleeve and run home, past people on their way to work, past Mother's garden. Inside our room, I drop to the floor at Grandfather's feet. I wrap my arms around his legs and try to speak, but my throat is still closed. I want to tell him I'm sorry. I want to ask him to forgive me, but no words come out. I know you miss Yuzhin, Grandfather says. I miss him too. I cry until I feel Grandfather's hand on my head. I look up and he moves his hand to my cheek. I scrub at my eyes again. I know you are sorry, Grandfather says, and I am sorry too. Ron has already left for school and classes have started. My heart feels like flying when Grandfather takes my hand and walks me to school. So something new, something normal. Grandfather taking her to school. Maybe this is why her heart is flying, because it feels like, oh, it feels so good to have Grandfather walking with her. That night, Grandfather and Ron and I sit at a long table in the mess hall. Whoa, did you hear that? Grandfather sits at a table in the mess hall. First time for that, too. Grandfather leans his head towards Ron, who is speaking to him. There is no mention of secrets in Ron's words, so I stop listening. Instead, I keep my eyes fixed on the entrance to the kitchen. This is the first time Grandfather has come to the mess hall. Mother does not know about Grandfather's decision, and I want to see her when she learns. Mother comes out balancing a teapot and cups. She takes several steps before she sees. Then she stops walking. I touch Grandfather's arm. Ron stops talking. Mother starts walking. She sets the teapot and cups on the table. I can see tears in her cheeks. I also see her smile. It is a small smile, a quiet smile, but it is the first smile I've seen on Mother's face since we left the island. Father, Mother says, you're here. Grandfather nods. I am here. I lift the teapot to pour hot water into cups, but Mother stops my hands. Wait, she says. She leaves the table, walking so quickly she is almost running. She leaves the mess hall. In a few minutes, she returns, carrying a bowl and a cup, as well as a small sack in her arms. Mother sits at the table and places the teapot in front of her and one cup next to it. She sets the bowl to her left. She bows over the bowl. I remember this from the island. It is a special ceremony to honor a special moment. Mother is preparing tea. Grandfather sits straight up. Ron and I place our hands in our lap. Many pieces of the ceremony are missing. There is no special mat to cover the table. Instead, Mother folds her napkin and sets it on the table. There is no special tea set, but Mother pours water into the cup in front of her, swirling it around to clean it before she pours it into the empty bowl. She dries the cup with a napkin. There is no special tea powder to whisk into boiling water. Instead, Mother shakes the last of the tea leaves from the sack into the teapot. She pours the weak tea from the teapot into the cup. She holds the cup on her palm and then places it on the table in front of Grandfather. Grandfather holds the cup in his palm and sips. Then he takes a napkin and wipes the rim of the cup. Ron takes the cup in his palm and sips. And after he has set it on the table and wiped the rim, it is my turn. I am careful to do as Mother taught me. I place the cup on the palm of my left hand and raise my right hand to my chest, and I sip slowly. This weak tea washes the dust from my throat. Perhaps tonight I will find my voice. Father joins us in our room earlier than usual this evening, and he looks excited. I remember the last time Father looked excited. It was when he pulled Keiko's letter from his pocket. That was many Yuzhin pictures ago. I think about this morning's picture, the picture with a message, and I wonder how long it will take for that picture to find Yuzhin. This time, Father does not pull a letter from inside his shirt. This time, he pulls something furry and small and brown from inside his shirt. What do you think it is? Do you have a guess? He places it on the floor of our room. This dog, did you guess dog? This dog needs a home, Father said. I saw him by an administration building. He's little like Yuzhin. I thought maybe it would help. Maybe bring back Manami's voice. I asked a soldier if we could have the dog, and the soldier said the dog didn't belong to anyone. It just wandered in through the gate. He said I could have it. Wow. Paper wishes thrown into the sky. And did they bring the dog? It's not Yuzhin. My heart starts to beat so hard that I think it might beat out of my chest. Ron pets the dog. Mother brings a bowl of water. Hello, Grandfather says. He smiles when a pink tongue licks his hand. I hear Father's laugh and see Grandfather's smile. Mother looks at me and her smile freezes. She reaches towards me. Manami, she says, do you want a dog? I do want a dog. I want a dog. I want Yuzhin. The wind gave my message to the wrong dog. If this dog got Yuzhin's message, then how will Yuzhin find me? I want to explain, but my throat feels tight again. Too tight for words to get out. Too tight for airs to get in. I run outside to Mother's garden. I sit on the ground between mounds of zucchini and cilantro, and I touch the thickening stems. I touch the handprint-shaped leaves. My throat begins to open just a little, just enough for air to get in. I close my eyes when I see Father walk out the door carrying the dog. The next morning, I see the dog following behind Kimi's mother. At school, Kimi tells me how happy she is that my father gave them the dog. I want to be happy for Kimi, but I cannot smile. After a minute, I nod. What do you think about Manami's decision and choice to not keep the dog? How do you feel about that? All right, that's the end of the chapter. Please look for the discussion questions that are posted.